Welcome to Facebook. Welcome to our show, Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, live on Facebook. There we go. What's up? Today is a different show for us on Facebook. It's our first edition of just video podcast, Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. Yeah. That's it. No more are we going to the radio on the weekends. We don't have to break every 10 minutes. We don't have to, we're no longer doing a 2-hour show. So we're bulking them down to about 20, 30 minutes. Single subjects, and then canning them out. That's right.
Bite size.
Boom, boom, boom. Like TED Talks. There you go.
Exactly. I think they're 16 or 18. I think they're 18 minutes TED Talks.
Well, that's what they are. All right. Well, we'll do our own. We'll do our own thing, just like that.
That's a bite size.
Oh, there we go. I was like, is Joe eating again in the microphone?
You guys hear?
I do.
Another bite at the apple, they say.
It sounds exactly like that. All right. Well, let's. All right, so what we're gonna do then, I guess, this is weird. Yeah, so we'll just start off with the show, and then you already got.
That's
the
right. We're already on it. We have, we can start off with the show whenever you want to, and then that's when we'll.
It's a bit of a brave new world, isn't it?
It is. Well, count us down, Joseph. Let's do it.
All right, cool. And in 5, 4, 3, 2.
All right, welcome to the show, Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, building damage experts, and now weekly to you on YouTube, on Facebook, and on our website, contractortalkpodcast.com, bringing information to you from contractors to consumers and contractors alike. And those on our show will include your hosts, such as myself, a contractor, Richie Kidwell. Then you have our co-host and in-house counsel, Hans Kennon. What's going on, brother?
Oh, good to hear. I'm very gratified that Joe's playing Bad of the Bone beneath my name. I think that's nice.
Well, there's another track that usually goes with Hans Kennon, and that is this track right here.
There we go. I think he's a little casual today, but on the show
I beg to differ because
have Hans, dapper suit of the week.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to start it over again, Joe.
Okay, of course.
Here we go.
Here we go.
We're restarting.
Oh, restarting. I'll start again.
Oh, there we go. Well, he lost the cans there for a second.
Oh, it's
so
okay. We can
reattach.
We can reattach the cans. I'll just cut it.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
It's awesome. All right, here we go. Yeah, it's a beautiful suit. To me, it seems like almost like a nautical theme. Here we go.
You want to layer up. This time of year, you want to layer up.
I mean, it has been cold here in Florida. If you've seen the weather, it's 30 degrees one day, 90 degrees the next. Gotta love it.
Yeah, 30 degrees in the morning and like very, very hot. By lunchtime, it's crazy. You have no idea what to wear unless.
So it's important to go with the layers.
Get layers. You got to layer up a little bit. That's all.
Because you can also layer down.
That's right.
I do have a nautical watch on actually today too.
Yeah, he's very nautical today. And Joe pulled that noticed that from you right off the bat.
Immediately when I walked in, I know. I saw that.
Look very
nautical. Good. Well, thank you for that. Sorry about you popped the little cord out of my headphones there.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
All right, on the show today we have a good show for you. A specific topic on, I'm not sure what that was, but it's like I was blown in the face.
That was an ocean wave because of the suit.
Oh my goodness. Well, today on the show we want to talk about what to expect nowadays when you have a property insurance claim on your home or your business, what to call or who to call, what to expect, and then especially if you're on a limited budget. And prior to this year's law change, there was an availability of what they called an assignment of benefit contract.
Yes.
And we all use it all the time. Anytime we walk into a doctor's office, you are essentially signing your rights and how do you call it? The rights. I was going to say privileges, but more or less the rights to collect under that policy to bill and get paid separately as a service provider.
And when you say though, you're giving away your rights, I mean that always has this kind of negative implication that you're giving away something that you necessarily need. I mean, the use of the assignment of benefits is primarily one of convenience and the one, I think, of knowledge and sophistication. When you give an assignment of benefits at the doctor's office, you're not giving away your rights to privacy or your rights to your medical records. All you're saying is, Doc, instead of me writing you a check today and submitting that check, that bill to my insurance company, look, I'm going to give you the right to submit that bill directly to the insurer and get paid directly. That's the extent of it. So when people talk, oh, you're giving up your rights, I mean, again, that always has a much more impactful sound. Even when you do it with providers with property insurance, a lot of people say, well, I'm not an expert, but the person who I'm working with now is an expert. I'm going to give my rights to handle my claim to them. Because if the insurer comes to you and says, Mr. Smith, tell me about what happened to your roof, you're going to probably go, I'm not really sure what happened on our roof. But this guy knows. Well, that guy's incentive to make sure he's there to help you and everything else is tied to his ability to manage that claim for you. Honestly, get paid for it and do the work and try to leave you with as little responsibility and as little inconvenience as possible.
That's right. That's right. And so that's why we do this. That's why it's set up that way, because we don't know, and especially when we go to our doctor's office, we don't know what treatment they're going to provide to us.
Cost, yeah.
Right, until we're just about to walk out the door. So you sign the assignment of benefits up front while you're sitting out in the lobby. You fill it out, you give it to the lady or the person up the front, and they hand it to an office full of 50, 60 people back there, all calling your insurance companies to make sure that you have an active policy and see what the coverages are. And then it goes, and then the chart gets right back out to the doctor. The doctor grabs the chart, comes out and grabs you and takes you in the backside, or takes you.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Man, we need to. So we're definitely going to fucking change that up, right? So at 7-minute mark. So we're going to start that back over. So the doctor comes back out with your chart and takes you to the back and already knows what is covered under your policy of insurance. For instance, okay, well, let's do this procedure, or let's do these blood tests, and let's do these. These are covered under your policy. And so then those services, as you leave, are then billed and processed and then billed to your insurance company. And the insurance company pays your doctor's office directly for the services in which they performed. And then you, the insured, go about your day. You pay your deductible or your
copay.
Yeah, your copay in that part, and you go on about your day, and that's it. Now, sometimes there is a dispute between your doctor's office and the insurance company. And sometimes, as an insured, you will get a letter in the mail with numbers on it, but right above it says, "This is not a bill." I've gotten one of those.
Sure.
And I'm like, what is this? Well, it's a pre-suit demand letter that's going out to your insurance company from your doctor's office. So people are like, what? And I'm like, yeah, your 85-year-old doctor that you've been going to for 30 years, yes, they sue the crap out of your insurance company if they don't get paid. I'm telling you, everybody does it. It's just, unfortunately, it's the way it is. Auto is the same way, and, it's weird. And you know this firsthand, Hans. And it's still weird to me that when a contractor would turn in an invoice to the insurance company, it's for the amount that's in a reference manual called the NAGS, National Auto Glass, I think it's Society or whatever. But they set the prices for a 1973 Honda Accord, how much it is. It's $722, 32 cents, whatever it is to replace that. And that's how much it's billed. What does the insurance company do? We're going to pay you 50% of NAGS.
Right.
And then...
Oh,
that was a bad one. And then what happens to the remainder? So the contractor is then forced to then take the 50%, go to a law firm like yours,
right,
and then file suit on half of that, on $300,
right.
But then they do it hundreds of times over and over and over again until you guys do a global, sweep or global demand or global settlement rather, and then get those done and then do another grouping.
Right.
I know you've been doing that a lot. So it's like, how does that end up coming to be a normal thing? I don't get it.
Well, I mean, when we're talking about NAGS, that's just because that's for windshield. The same thing applies to medical schedules. Essentially, everything has a fee schedule these days of some form or another. Your doctor has a fee schedule that derives by Medicare. Your automobile insurer in Florida has a fee schedule that everybody uses. But, from an insurance company perspective, if they can save $1 a claim on the number of claims they have, that ends up being a vast amount of money.
Right.
And we always talk about the idea that my best day would be have an app that everyone uses and I get paid 5 cents every time they use it. You think to yourself, well, how do you make money doing that? Well, over the course of thousands or millions of claims or millions of uses of the app I haven't thought up yet, it ends up being a lot of money. So from an insurance company perspective, even though everyone's got schedules, everyone has something they're supposed to follow, the insurer is not otherwise bound to do so and will then say, like you said with auto glass, to the auto glass guy, we'll pay you half. Okay, what's that based on? Nothing, we'll pay you half. Same thing with the medical provider. Well, but there's a fee schedule that says you should pay X. Well, we think based on Medicare, we can pay a little less. And again, that's what the insurers typically do, and that's why people get irritated at their insurance company. But again, you keep in mind, let's say you don't have the assignment of benefits on the medical side, and you go and you submit and you write a check and you submit it to the insurance company, and they write back and they go, you owe us more than that. Well, why? Well, because we're charging more for these things, like blood tests. Like if you go and pay your own blood test, it's like $1,000 for something that otherwise costs you $20, because that's what they charge. So without the assignment of benefits, you're writing huge checks to a lab or to your doctor's office for all those services. So again, the assignment of benefits is primarily one of convenience and cash flow. And that's cash flow for you as the consumer, as the patient. You're not out the money. And for the physician, they're able to manage the money that comes in. And again, it's really one of sophistication. The insurers would rather not deal with someone who's sophisticated and who knows how these things work. They'd rather call your mom or your dad or your grandfather and say, sir, you owe us more money. And most people don't know. And you hear about this all the time, getting scammed. But in many ways, you may have an insurer call and say, look, you owe more money than this. And people pay it. So again, the doctor would say, whoa, wait a minute. You can't charge them more money for that. That's not right. That's not the schedule. That's not our agreement. That other folks just simply don't know about. So again, it's there to give you some peace of mind that the folks who are collecting the money are there to make sure that the right amount is paid and you don't owe anything else.
Right. And there's a direction to pay in that. There's an assignment of benefits with a direction to pay that would allow the doctor to get paid directly from the insurance company. Because imagine a $10,000 procedure. Imagine if the insurance company sent the insured $10,000 and said, hey, pay your doctor this much because they just did this procedure. People that don't have that much money, then the likelihood of them actually passing that on and be like, oh, look, I got 10 grand.
Right.
I don't think that I'm going to pay for that.
I'm not sure it was worth that much.
Right.
So, but then what happens then, if the direction to pay did not exist, then what you would have is you'd have doctors not getting paid, and then doctors don't work if they don't get paid, and essentially the whole system starts to break down at that point.
Right. So again, then we're back to a system, and I think even since in our Florida Supreme Court, since 1893, there has been not only a case law that says that if there's a dispute, that there's prevailing party attorney's fees, which were just taken away last year, or actually the later part of 2022. Now we're in 2024 already. But where we had prevailing party attorney's fees that was really for protection of the consumer, David versus Goliath. And you think, okay, we have some protection against insurance providers, and then we've seen the protection of the consumer slowly get eroded away. Now all the way till today, 2024, they have stripped away prevailing party attorneys' fees for homeowners, meaning they have to bear their own fees and costs now. And this is across all lines of insurance. Now, property was taken away the later part of 2022. And then in 2023, the rest of insurance, prevailing party attorney's fees were taken. Auto, medical, life insurance, all gone. They started with property first. Property insurers were saying that there was all these scammers going on. It was attorneys, it was roofers, water mitigation guys that were making all of the claims fraudulently, of course. And then to no fault to the insurance companies, of course.
Right.
But of course, we were the ones that were to blame for it on our side, when we know the insurance companies literally wrote a book, Delay, Deny, Defend, because they know the more that they deny, the more money is in their pocket. There's only a certain percentage of folks that will actually call you, Hans Kennon, as a lawyer and say, hey, I have a dispute against my insurance company. The chilling effect that just happened through last year and the year before with this whole fake crisis of insurance and skyrocketing prices of our Florida insurance market was only a scam to allow these policies to go through, allow these law changes to go through, and all a part of a $100 million donation from the insurance lobby, which was supposed to be in a panic and a crisis. But of course, they pooped out $100 million pretty quick, gave it to our Governor DeSantis, who turned into a dictator so he can run for president. And then all for nothing, too, because he dropped out of the race last week or a few weeks ago, no longer running for president.
Right. After Iowa, that's the first one.
Right.
He didn't hang in the second, the third, the fourth, see what happened.
He was losing so bad.
The first one.
Oh, yeah. And he's swore he visited all 99 counties in Iowa, which are we only have 67 counties in Florida. How does Iowa have 99 counties? I still don't know. Little squares.
Little squares, yeah. It looks like they put a piece of window screen over the map and just filled it in or something. Yes.
Yeah. So what do Floridians do when they have a claim or they have property damage today? What to expect from contractors as they come out, and you as a contractor, what to offer to consumers to help them out in their one time of loss, their one time of need, which is a hurricane, lightning strike, fire, a car runs into the house, all those times where you have to file a claim against your insurance company. What to expect now? There's no more assignment of benefits. The legislature outlawed them in Florida policies that are born in 2023. So if it's renewed or if it's purchased in 2023 and then has a claim thereafter, there's no assignments that are to be valid. So you can't find a contractor that'll work in exchange for consideration, rather, that consideration in exchange for this assignment of benefit contract to bill your insurance provider directly. Well, I mean, so that means you have to front it.
Well, I was going to say, so exactly, it becomes like your doctor's office. So if you imagine you go to the doctor and instead of you writing the check, they bill it directly to the insurer and get the money back. Imagine doing that with water remediation. Imagine doing that with roofing. Any damage to your home, because they used to come out and they'd say, "Look, we're not going to charge you." And that was the consideration for the assignment was, we're not going to ask for any money, and we're going to go forward. And if it doesn't work out for us with the insurance company, we're not coming back to you, Mr. Homeowner.
Right, like a tarp situation, for instance, or emergency extraction. You come home, open the door. There's a pressurized water line break, and there's water all over the floor. What do? First thing you're going to do is call Serpro of the world, and they're going to come out and start the emergency extraction. If you're not ready for that type of emergency, you don't have the money, you don't have the funds to do that. But you have an insurance policy. That's what makes you feel good. That's what makes you sleep better at night. That's why you're in good hands, right? Is because you're protected against that. So you come home, you find the pressurized water line that is busted, water all over the floor. You call your insurance provider. You call a Serpro. You call somebody out to do the emergency water extraction, stop the water, get you out of stabilized environment. Then in the past, you would assign your rights and benefits to a third-party contractor who would then do all that dry out, all the mitigation, bill your insurance company, and no money out of pocket. The money comes out for your deductible on the build back side of things, on the repair side of it. It's $500 deductible, $10,000 kitchen, you get $9,500. You put your kitchen back together, you're good. But the other stuff, the emergency mitigation, all that, the tarping or the dry out, all that should be billed directly to your insurance company. It's covered under the policy most of the time on an HO3 policy. So I'm somebody who has an HO3 policy. Those are covered under my policy of insurance. So if I have a hurricane, a loss, lightning strike, or any of those things, I'm going to file the claim, and we're going to get the insurance company out there. But I would then want the right to assign the benefits. Now that doesn't exist, what are we doing today? And you as a homeowner, what to expect? So what we talk about in this industry are what alternative contracts there are. Roofers use what they call a contingency contract. There's nothing binding there, but they'll help you out. They'll come out. They'll usually the door knockers, or after a hail event, storm event, knock on your door. Whole neighborhoods are canvassed, and they'll say, "Listen, I can help you through this. And you don't have to sign anything. You don't have to pay me any money. Here's my contract." It's a contingency contract, contingent upon the insurance proceeds being paid to you. I get the job. I'm going to meet with your adjuster. I'm going to give you an estimate. All that stuff. All that's for free. And I'll bill your carrier, for or estimate the amount of the roof, and then the contingency says you have to pay me, or you have to use me. Now there are holes in the contingency, right? I mean, the homeowner doesn't have to use that provider
unless if the job is fully funded by the insurer. Then that's part of what we call the direction to pay part, which would include that contractor on the check issued by the insurer.
Right. Now, a contingency, though, where I was going with that is that it's usually between the homeowner and the contractor.
Yes.
Now, if it doesn't have that direction of paying language in there, now we're talking about a separate contract, which a lot of the folks are now pushing these days, are this, hey, I am going to do some minimal work for you to have some sort of consideration, meaning, hey, I'm a roofer, I knock on your door, there's definite damage to your tiles or your roof, I'm going to tarp it. So that's their starting consideration. There's an invoice that's been created. Now in exchange, I want a direction to pay, a full direction to pay, service authorization, direction to pay. And our Florida legislature has changed the laws here that says that they have 60 days, the insurance companies have 60 days to pay or deny a claim. claim.
Right.
Prior to last year, it was 90 days
Yes.
pay or deny, to pay or deny. And now, and the 90-day lien part has never changed. So it's 90 days, right? So now most contractors would go ahead and lien a home before the 90 days.
Right.
And the insurance hasn't finished their investigation, made any payments. So the homeowner and the contractor are in a pickle at that point.
Yeah.
So now it's made it a little bit better to now they know, okay, you have to be done in 60 days to give me your coverage determination. We have 90 days to lien your home.
Right.
I would prefer a contractor not to lien the home. It's already stressful enough for a homeowner. It doesn't know what's going on. And the insurance companies are just dragging their feet, citizens. It's like the long line at the DMV. They don't care.
Yeah.
And, it's just horrible customer service. There's that's just the way it is. So you're waiting on the claim, a decision to come out. It finally does within 60 days. With this new contract, either you're going to get paid in that first 60 days. The direction to pay says you, insurance company, have been instructed by the insured to pay the contractor separately. And for the full amount, now if the roof hasn't been put on, it's a little bit different for roofers, then they're going to pay what they call ACV, the actual cash value, until the roof is put on. Then they'll pay the remainder, which is the depreciation, which is the recoverable depreciation, or in difference of RCV, which is a replacement cost value, and the actual cost value. So that's the indifference. Most people don't understand that. It's like if the work hasn't been done, then they're going to pay for the actual cash value, which is the amount of it minus depreciation.
Well, which is essentially the value today. Some of that becomes kind of crazy too, because first thing is you can't depreciate labor. You can only depreciate materials, because the labor cost is whatever the labor cost is. So it's a little bit of a misnomer. But the best way I always like to think about like used paint. Like you go into a room and you go, so that's why they really can't depreciate paint, because either it's on the wall or it's not on the wall. But actual cash value is defined as what does it cost me to replace it today, less depreciation, as Richie said. Essentially meaning what is its current market value. And I always use the example of a ballpoint pen. You buy a pen for $1. I use it for 6 months, and then something happens to it. And the insurer goes, what'd you lose? I go, well, I lost this pen. Well, what did the pen cost you? The pen cost $1. Was it a brand new pen? No, it was used. Okay, we'll give you 50 cents for your pen today. But when you go out and buy a new pen, send me the bill, we'll send you the other 50 cents. That's essentially how that process works.
That's right. And there's really no rhyme or reason. It's a long story, I imagine, but I'm sure it's just one of those, that's where I'm going to depreciate that. Depreciation certainly is a judgment call, I guess, as we would say. Now, certain policies do have that type of depreciation schedule in them for roofing. Some insurers do that, where they'll tell you based on the years,
based on the annualization of the roof. So they'll say, look, if you put a roof on in the last year, we'll give you 95% of its value if it needs to be replaced. And it goes down once it gets to about 10 years, 12 years, it's down to maybe 50%. Usually over that, I see them drop to 25%, which means even if you have a roof that's working well, with not giving you any trouble, just happens to be an older roof, and you have some damage to it, and you have a 15-year or 20-year-old roof, which isn't unexpected.
Right.
It's a little long in the tooth here in Florida with our weather, but again, not unexpected. You may find that when you need to get a roof replaced, they'll offer you only 25% of the replacement cost simply because it's old.
Wow.
Now, they may do that for you because they gave you a reduction in premium, which is why we always discuss the idea that you need to ask your agent, are they offering any discounts? Well, yeah, what for? Well, they're going to put this thing in your policy that if you have an old roof, you only get 25% of the value. And you say to yourself, well, roofs are $20,000, for an average home, give or take.
Right.
So I'm going to get $5,000 maximum. The roof blows up. I'm talking about the roof gone. Like roof is gone on the home, and they're going to pay me 25% of the replacement cost because I saved $100.
Right. No, I'd rather self-insure at that point.
Right.
Yeah. So we have that those types of contracts available outside of the assignment of benefits. Assignment of benefits was just like you said, much more convenient and easier for the insured, the homeowner, because they don't usually deal with this type. Just like the insured, when I walk into a doctor's office, I don't know how they submit to the carrier for and on the schedule and the services that were provided to me, the blood test or whatever it was. I have no idea. So I wouldn't imagine that should fall on me, the insured. But that's how the Florida legislature had now, with the paid off governor, has made it to be. So communication to the insureds and the contractors are key right now. And so don't freak out. And so I think there's such a chilling effect that folks are just not wanting to file a claim. We've seen that from the aftermath of Hurricane Ian here in Southwest Florida. You can still file a Hurricane Ian claim today, but most people are still so hesitant. You have 2 years to file a Hurricane Ian claim, 3 years total for supplement. So you have to quickly file that claim before that runs out. 2 years goes by really fast. Yeah. And of course, the sooner the better, so not to prejudice the claim at all, in case other storms came between then and now, because you have to prove that out. So there's just, again, you need to understand that there are, that at least to me, right? Now, I guess I'll use my opinion. If I'm driving and somebody rear ends me and it seems like the damage supersedes my deductible, I should file a claim. That's why I have insurance. Right? If it's under deductible, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to pay myself. You know, it's whatever. So with your property, it's the same thing. You know, windstorm comes by, hailstorm comes by, and it does damage to your home. You should file your claim, at least in my opinion. Now, one thing that you need to know is if there's a hurricane claim, it doesn't count against your loss runs. So when you go to another provider and they'll ask you how many losses have you had in the past couple of years, you don't have to count a hurricane claim. So if you filed Hurricane Ian, you don't have to count that in your loss runs. You get new insurance. How many claims have you filed? None. Well, you have a Hurricane Ian. Yes, right, none. That's right. You know, it doesn't count. So know that, you know, if you have some unlucky claims, it is what it is, you know, so file them, but know about what to expect when somebody knocks on your door, or if you call a service provider, you want to ask them those questions. How are you getting paid? Am I on the hook if my insurance company doesn't pay? And finally, the last type of contract I want to talk about, we talked about a contingency contract, right? A lot of the roofers use a contingency contract, right? But that's just between you and the insured, and you have to trust the insured that when they finally get the money that only has their name on it, that they're going to call you up and say, yes, put my roof on. So you just have to have faith, right? That's your contingency contract. Roofer knocks on door. I'll do your estimate. I'll put the roof on once you get the insurance proceeds. Here's my contingency contract. You don't have to pay me anything. It's like, okay. The next one would be the direction to pay. Service authorization, direction to pay. Yeah. These guys are usually doing something of value. They're putting a tarp over it, and they're saying, hey, I'm going to bill your insurance company a couple grand or whatever it is, and here's my direction to pay with 90-day net terms. What does that mean? Well, that means that I'm going to bill this to your insurance company. They have 60 days to pay or deny, but you have 90 days to pay me. So hopefully they pay you in with that. Right. Within that time period. Well, what happens if not? Well, we'll talk about that, right? You either have to pay me the bill, or finally, the last part of the contract, which could be integrated with it, or a separate contract, is what they call letter protection. Now, letter protection is when a client, a homeowner, signs a letter protection contract to a contractor that says, if I instigate litigation against my insurance company for that dispute amount, and there's an invoice on that claim from that said contractor that instructs the attorney hired by the insured to settle or to make sure that service provider is listed on the settlement. And so they get paid through the attorney firm. That's another deferment mechanism. Let me give you an example. I'm driving down the road, I get sideswiped by another car, and I go to the hospital. I then get worked on by a surgeon, and then after that, then I'm directed to go to get an MRI and all of these different types of services, and now I'm doing 6 months worth of rehab. Well, and that's because I called you, Hans Kennon, as a lawyer, and I said, hey, I had an accident, and you are now directing me to these folks that are treating me. And along the way, I'm not paying any money. Right. I'm signing what they call letter protection. Boom, 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 boom. 6 months, I get full boat treatment. I'm a rock star. I'm paying no money. And finally, then you get it settled. Yep. And then you pay all the surgeon, the MRI guys, the anesthesiologist, and then you protect the insured's indemnity as well. Yes. So you pay everybody. You're the quarterback.
Exactly. And in that situation, again, whatever proceeds come in are then distributed to all the medical providers. And again, the letter of protection doesn't obligate you to pay. It obligates you to satisfy the bill if there's a settlement or a positive result. So again, even the letter of protection does not obligate the patient to personal liability. Basically, the physicians or the healthcare providers are saying to themselves, look, we've examined the patient. We believe the patient's injuries are related to the accident, whatever it may be, an automobile accident, a slip and fall, whatever incident may have been. And we're willing to treat them under the idea that if there is a positive recovery, you're going to satisfy our bill. Again, for convenience to the insured. I mean, if you every time you went for care, went for an MRI, you had to write a check. And again, the one reason why the insurers like that model is it stops people from getting treatment. I mean, that's the reality of it is. If you had to pay for everything that you had done to yourself for an accident or not even for an accident, if that was something that the insured, that you had to pay out of pocket first, there'd be a lot less people getting the treatment that they need, which is why the system works, because it allows people to get all the care they need, get back to what we call maximum medical improvement, which is essentially back to as good as you're going to get. And are able to do that because they have access to medical care that they could not otherwise pay for out of pocket, which is the fairest of the systems, because we don't want people, and keep this in mind too, someone who doesn't get the correct care or the proper care ends up having residual problems that end up in hospitals, end up in emergency rooms, end up with more trouble later, end up on Medicare or some sort of disability, something that actually costs society and insurance companies even more money later. It's the ounce of prevention, pound of cure. If I do the right thing up front, then I'm going to, ideally, I'll be as good as I'm going to get, or I'll be fine. If you piecemeal it out, again, it becomes the pound of cure. Years go by, people have other troubles and other problems. So the system works and helps people get the best care that can be afforded.
Right. And so that's what to expect on the property side of things these days. And so we, or I would say the contractors, are the surgeons. They are the MRI guys. They are the ones that are helping the patient, which would be the insured at this point that's been injured. And so that would be your property. And so that's what we're looking like today. Prior to, you had a choice whether to self-pay and hope to God you get reimbursed by your insurance company. And then folks started to get burned on that. They said, okay, well, we understand that contractors are offering these deferred payment contracts. Talk to me about that. So those are entered into the market with the contingency contracts, and then the direction of pay contracts with 90-day net terms to the homeowner. And now the letter of protection is a great model, where it's still like no recovery, no fee, which is great. That's what you say as a lawyer a lot of times. If we can't recover you any money, then you don't have to pay me anything. And so that's why you guys go through a process to look at the whole claim to see if that's something you guys want to take on. And so we look at this now and say everything's changed. There used to be that convenience with the assignment of benefits on the property side. You would come in and say, here's the assignment of benefits. In exchange, I get to get treated as a patient, and I go along my way just paying my copay, and I'm done. I don't worry about the rest of it. I go on about my life. That has now changed for the Florida market and property folks here, or if you have a property claim, rather, you're more involved as an insured now. You have to ensure that everybody gets paid. And if they don't get paid, you have to file a lawsuit against your insurance company. And then, or you have to pay the bills of the service providers.
One thing we should talk about is when the assignment of benefits was in effect, if you did have a water loss and needed people to come in and dry out your home or do the remediation or a demolition, whatever it may be at the time, they used to come in and they would hand you the assignment of benefits and you would sign it and they go to work. Nowadays, they're just as apt to say, okay, we're here, I need a credit card.
Right. And that's what it is now. Or I have finance options. That's what the new thing in the market is hey, let me finance this. Hopefully you get reimbursed. And you're like, wait. Going back to the model of going into your doctor's office and saying, hey, I need to get this procedure done. And they say, okay, cool. And they hand you an invoice and they say, well, give me your credit card, because there's a chance you're not going to get reimbursed. And you're like, wait, what? It's just an authorization on your credit card for 10 grand. We don't know, but it should be. It should be okay.
Right.
No.
And again, that's part of the, convenience goes to finances certainly also. So again, that assignment of benefits would have prevented your need of giving them a credit card, but now they show up, and because reality is when they do come in, they need to get paid for the time and services they're providing. And again, so you pay, and I can tell you this, over the years, occasionally, like my kids would go to a dentist somehow who wasn't on a plan, or just things happen. and they go like, well, we'll give you a receipt, you can submit it. Talk about what I would call a Byzantine process. You got to find the address. Basically, you got to take the bill, take the note. Find an envelope, do a letter that says who you are and your policy number. Make a copy of all this stuff. Then you got to submit it, and then you wait to get a reimbursement back. You get what's called an AOB, an EOB, an explanation of benefits, something like that. And then you got to figure out what you paid, what they paid you back. Is there anything else you can recover? Same thing on the property side. They'll send you a check with like 5 columns of how they calculated it, including non-recoverable depreciation, recoverable depreciation, all these types of things. And then you have to spend the money. Then when you get the receipts from the contractor, then you got to mail them into the insurer and hope they write you a check, and they'll write you a check for some number that doesn't make any sense again. I mean, those are all the things that happen because the insured now has become a project manager. I guess the best way to put it would be a project manager. You as the insured are now managing the reconstruction of your home, whether you should or shouldn't be involved in that process and whether you do or don't have the right knowledge. Again, the assignment of benefits would provide the contractor with, honestly, a financial incentive to make sure everything goes well and goes how it's supposed to go. And you get to kind of sit back and go, hi, Bob, it's Tuesday. What are we doing today? And he can tell you. Now, if you want to hire somebody, then you get to ask them. You get to figure out what are they doing? What are they spending on? Where's the money going? So you can either pay them or submit it and seek payment. And that's a heavy burden.
It really is. It really is. And they're making it more difficult for, really, I was going to say the insureds, but they're making it more difficult for the contractors helping the insureds today. And so that's what we're here to talk to you about, just to educate you as the contractor, educate you as the consumer, to know the right questions to ask and to understand the type of contract. If somebody's asking you to give you money up front for services they haven't performed yet, I would not do it. And you want to make sure that they are licensed, insured. You want to check references. You want to check online. You want to check as much as you possibly can to ensure before they do any services to your home that you check for insurance for sure, that they don't do work on your property uninsured in case they do more damage to your property while they're there. But if they ask you money up front, don't do it.
Yeah, and figure out how they got there. Again, sometimes people just seem to appear. But again, understandably so, if you're up to your ankles in water, and there's a desperation of that, we certainly understand that. But you always want to be cautious. And again, to the extent you can do any sort of research, even on the fly, we'd rather have you do that if you can. But for certain emergency situations, you really want to go with the big names. I have a hard time suggesting otherwise. We had some folks on the show recently from ServPro.
That's right.
Again, they're well known. They're used to working with insurers, used to working with consumers. And I'm sure there's other good folks out there. But offhand, ServPro was someone who we've worked with before in the past.
And just know that your rights here in the state of Florida, you have 90 days to avoid a lien to pay that service provider. Because even the ServPros of the world, if they don't get paid by the carrier, or if they end up getting wrongfully denied,
they're going to lien you.
They're going to lien your home, and they're going to expect you to pay it, and they'll eventually sue you. So what do you do as a property owner if you don't have the money saved up for that because it should have been covered under your policy of insurance? Well, you need to get used to that thought of, let me institute litigation against my insurer, and then have these folks take their invoice and submit it to my attorney under what they call letter of protection. So sign the letter of protection in exchange for that payment to that contractor. And if they don't offer that, then maybe you need to start talking to folks that do. Because you don't know, but you want to prepare for the worst, expect the best, of course. And that's, some insurers do the right thing, and a lot of times they don't. And those times that they don't, you want to be prepared. Pull that out of your back pocket and say, listen, these contractors are going to get paid by my attorney. I'm going to call Hans Kennon. He's going to file a suit against my insurance company if need be, and get everybody paid. And again, that's how most of the auto accidents work today.
Yes, auto and now property is also kind of now more in that mold, using more of the letters of protection and that type of device to make sure the contractor knows he has some protection if there is a recovery. And again, they do the work. Ideally, you receive the benefit of that, and there's some equity between those two things. And the lawyer, such as myself, will make sure that they get satisfied. They release any lien if they have one, and will also ideally not lien your property if we give them a letter of protection. Ideally, they will not lien the property. Because even because it just feels bad. I mean,
Right.
the homeowner, it's a very disconcerting, uncomfortable feeling that
Right.
someone may foreclose on your home
No kidding.
for services that your insurer should have paid for.
Right. I mean, and like they would lien your home, that is actually a lien. This LOP is a lien on the proceeds of
Right.
that insurance settlement,
Yeah.
which is so much stronger and sooner to foreclose, if that makes sense. Because, you know, if you're going to foreclose on somebody's home, I mean, good luck in the state of Florida
Oh,
with
yeah.
homestead laws.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just not. It's just going to die. It's going to be a piece of paper in your you know, credenza, whatever. You know, it's not going to convert to cash. And so the faster way to get there would be to lien the insurance proceeds,
Right.
and ensure that an adequate lawyer is on it, and that will get you turned around within the next 12 months. And that's what the hope is.
Yeah.
You know, so to recap, we talked about some contracts in which the state of Florida has really made laws to make it difficult for contractors and insureds to really know what's going on, but to deal with service providers and property. So there's no more prevailing party attorney's fees as of December 16, 2022 on any policies born on or after that date and then has a claim. There's many differences of how to go after the insurers for bad faith. That has been changed. But they did change the deadline from 90 days to pay or deny to 60 days to pay or deny in the state of Florida. And there's 90 days for lien laws to lien a property, rather. So you have 30 days essentially to figure out what are you going to do? Either appraise, mediate, or litigate. And that's what folks need to understand. And sometimes if the insurance company is really grossly denying you or underpaying you or slow walking you, sometimes you do have to institute litigation against your insurer. Sometimes it just has to occur for you to get paid. A lot of times it doesn't, but you know, that one time that you do, just be ready for it and be ready to sign that letter of protection if you need to, or you're going to be paying your contractors. And contractors, if you're listening now, make sure that you have it in your paperwork, whether you have a contingency agreement, which I don't recommend, but I do recommend the service authorization with a direction to pay.
Yeah.
It's basically a 90-day net terms, a 90-day deferment to your homeowner, right, that owes you money for consideration for services you have already provided there, whether it was emergency dry out or a TARP or some other service, or maybe inspection service. And then that's billed to your carrier. The carrier is either going to pay or deny in 60 days. And then you have to decide whether you're going to appraise it, mediate it, or litigate it.
Right.
And at that point, be protected. Sign a letter of protection where there's a lien on the proceeds, not the home. If you're listening, contractors, you want that lien to be on the insurance proceeds and not the home that's going to convert to cash a lot faster.
Yep.
So that's my tip for this podcast anyways. Anything to add to that?
No, I guess we try to stick with a lot of professional tips, or the pro tip, as I like to call it. What I'd say is, if anyone's out there and you have a question about what type of contract you have in hand, because they tend to look very different, even though they may be very much the same. My phone number is 407-782-0258, 407-782-0258. Feel free to put my name in your phone with the word lawyer. If anything comes up, feel free to text or call me. Thanks much.
Perfect. All right. So we'll end this podcast on that note right there. It was a great podcast show, a little over 35 minutes, 40 minutes or so, on that specific talk about contracting here in the state of Florida, what to expect in case you have a loss on your property. We've talked about auto as well, and how that all of that stuff went into auto, went into medical, went into life as well. It really affected the Florida insurance market. So what to expect if you have a loss on your property in Florida now in 2024. You don't want to miss this podcast.